Okay, so we're going to talk about relaxation today. And it's a more, it's such a simple term, and it's such a, I mean, it's everywhere, right? It's in yoga class, and you often think about meditation as like a method of relaxing, and and that is a perfectly fine way to think about it, especially at first, and it will get you really, really far actually in improving your life. But ultimately, it's a really deep practice. And let's just put it this way for today. I don't want to make a scientific claim that I can't totally back up, but for today, let's just accept this because it's a very useful way to think about it. Everything, every belief, every pain, every thought, every suffering is held in the body somewhere. Now, we think of it as held in the brain, so that's obviously part of the body, so that's not even controversial, but it's actually held in our musculature, our ligature, our tendons. It's held in our skin. And if that's true, then that really suggests a way of practicing with your life that is different than the one you're being taught all the time, right? That the whole society works. What we're being taught, of course, is use the mind to solve the problems. So either your emotion is a good rational emotion or it's a bad emotion. If it's a bad emotion, get rid of it. If it's a good emotion, then go fix the world that's causing it, right? There's all sorts of unhealthy thoughts in that system. Well, let's leave that off to the side and say, well, what would be a different approach? Well, if everything is in the body, if everything is being held in the body, then anything that needs to be released can be released by releasing it in the body. Now, of course, there are very intense kinds of practices like yoga or massage or energy work, or breath work that are designed to sort of give big releases in the body. And I'm not saying anything against those. Those might be necessary or I know they've been very helpful to me at times. But as far as meditation goes, we can think of it in a much more gentle way. Well, the advantage we have in meditation is that we are able to observe things very, very closely and very, very subtly. That's what we're practicing and learning to do. And so everything that's being held in the body has a location. And this becomes pretty obvious the more you do the mindfulness. You start to notice, oh, as a thought is running through the head, another line of experience is running through the body. Now, certain thoughts have very little traction in our life, and they're not going to have very much traction in our body. For instance, if my mind just goes, there's a lion, there's a lion in Narnia, like, no, I did. I had a little emotion there because I liked that book, right? I could feel it in my body, right? There's the line that has some reaction in the body, but you could just have nonsense going through your head whenever, some random piece of music got stuck in your head. It might not have any effect in your body or very little because it has very little hold on you. But the thoughts that have a hold on you have a hold on you because there's a track going through your physical system. And so that's sort of the first thing we start to notice is that the mind plays out and there's a parallel set of sensations going through the body. And in many ways, the body is more fundamental. It's richer, it's deeper. It's almost like the thought is an expression of what's in the body. It's like the thought is just a little wave of the out of the ocean, and your body is the ocean. Now, if we've had a lot of trauma or physical pain, or if we've just grown up in the West and been cut off from our body, we may find it very difficult to feel this stuff in our body. Now, if you've been in my class for a while, I know you've started to tune into the body. We talk about it all the time. But it doesn't mean it's fun or that you want to do it all the time. So this is one reason it's really useful to think about working with the body as thinking about relaxation. We aren't trying to go and fix or root out or tear something out, or, right? It's not aggressive. And so when we talk about focusing on resource in the body, that's what we mean. We want to find a way to be with our body that feels safe. And this can be very challenging, especially if we're traumatized or if we're just feeling really, really bad. And it requires concentration. Today, we're talking about relaxation. So one resource we could focus on is relaxation. And the body is always relaxing. Every time you breathe out, it's relaxing. Every time the heart beats, it relaxes. Every time you squeeze your fist and let go, it relaxes. Your body cannot operate without constriction and relaxation. So you can do things like elongating your out breath and really focusing on the out breath to notice relaxation in the body. Doesn't mean you're trying to get rid of anything else in the body. You're noticing, oh, there is relaxation already here. We have to feel safe in our body to be able to work with the body. And that can take a little time to establish that relationship. You've heard me say this many times, but I like to think of the wounded parts of ourselves like a rescue dog. One that was just living on the street and maybe it was beaten and like it's had a tough time. It's going to take a little time for it to trust you. Some parts of you will just light up when you start to give it attention, just like some rescue dogs will just be so happy you gave it some food and it'll start playing right away. And then other ones, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time, and it takes you being incredibly patient and loving and not expecting more from the animal than the animal can give you right now. Same thing, not expecting more from your body than it's ready to give right now. So there's parts of you that are ready to be relaxed, and you can go sit with them and go, oh yeah, this is nice. And there's parts of you that are not ready to release yet. And that's okay. In fact, it's necessary for healing that those parts know it's okay for them not to release yet. So let's talk at a very simple level before we go back into the deep level. At a very simple level as we go through our day. So for instance, today, I showed up late. I didn't have my water. There was a dog barking. And that could have had an effect on all of our systems, right? So it could have had an effect on my system to be, I didn't really, maybe I feel I didn't really notice. I wasn't really hassled by it. It didn't really bother me, but it could have, right? Just a little thing goes wrong and then a little tension ends the body, a little nervousness. Same thing from your perspective. I was waiting here. I was ready for class. It was 10 minutes late. What's going on? Even if you weren't mad at me, you might have been annoyed. That would be in your body somewhere, but you also might have been like uncertain. Was this class going to happen? I was ready to do this, right? And does that enter your body? And so what our body does is it goes through the day, it tenses up at situations that are not the way it wants them to be. Okay, that's just simple, right? The body, when the world is not the way you want it to be, the body tenses in particular ways to things not being the way you want them to be. If you don't acknowledge that or aren't conscious of that or don't get a resolution to that, that tension remains in the body. And it can build up. So you got a little tension because Chris was late. And then the next time, and then some of your partner comes in later and they their shoes are squeaky. And that's annoying. And now there's extra tension in your body. And now the squeakiness is extra annoying. And that causes extra tension in the body, right? So what we do is we get traces of tension in our body when the world is not the way we want it, when we are resisting it. And it builds up over time. And then we release it. In the most healthy way, we release it immediately. Not meaning we get rid of it. We sort of acknowledge it and let it move through, right? The more we do that, the less things start to, the more equanimity we have, the more resilience we have. But if we don't release it right away, we're going to release it later, or we're going to carry it. When we release it later, it'll be bigger and more unpleasant, right? So if all day long you've been gathering tension and you never got to say anything about it, never got to release it, never got to relax, then you might explode at the end of the day, if that's your type, or you might cry, start sob at the end of the day, right? Or if you don't want to feel any of that, you might repress it in some way. You might have a couple drinks, or you might just, try to ignore it, and it just builds up in the body. Okay, so those are the small things, and that's how it works. Our experience is a body experience. We think it's a mind experience. Of course it is, but the mind is embodied. The mind is embodied. So we can work with the mind at the mind level with a psychotherapist or with philosophy like I'm giving you now, or psychology. But we can also work with the mind at the body level. And so you could notice that as the class was a little late today, if annoyance came up, what was happening in the body, and then you could relax around it. You could let it flow. So that things don't build up. And this is really one of the ways of thinking of mindfulness, of meditation. The 30-minute meditation is like it's like cleaning your hard drive kind of thing. It's taking some time to release some of this stuff that's been built up. But to do it daily is like a healthy practice so that things don't build up over time. And when you can get to the point where mindfulness is operating all the time, then you're sort of doing a self-cleaning process all the time. It's not that tension is bad. Tension is not bad. Constriction is just as much an important part of the human body as relaxation. But tension without release causes lots of problems. So sympathetic and parasympathetic. The system is supposed to get active, and then it's supposed to relax. If someone annoys you, fine. You get annoyed, and then it relaxes. When you feel that, when you're able to express it, maybe not at the person, however it needs to be expressed. It might just move through your body. It may be expressed, but in a kind way. It could be expressed in a not kind way. But however that is, then it relaxes. But society and civilization and our own traumas have taught us not to relax all those things, not to release them, not to speak to them, to think that a lot of them are bad. And so they get stuck. They get stuck in the body. So I'm just talking about small things, but big things get stuck there too. And when big things are stuck, we know, the body knows they're big. And the body knows that there will be pain in the releasing of them. The body believes there will be pain in the releasing of them. And so it just keeps avoiding them even more. And the more you avoid them, the bigger it gets, and the more of a problem it'll feels like that will be released. And then, so what we practice again in mindfulness is sort of slowly unwinding, letting these things start to unwind in a healthy way. But ultimately, as long as you're not harming other people, having them unwind in a small, gentle, pleasant way or a big way, either way is really is necessary. As long as you are conscious and present for the experience. If you're not conscious, then it's not actually unwinding. Then you're just stuck inside of it. So back to relaxation. There are a lot of things in our body that we don't even know are there, or we maybe know they're there in the mind, but we don't know where they are in the body. And so just practicing continually opening to relaxation in the body is a practice of unwinding things, conscious and unconscious. And right now, even just sitting with you, I can see where things are being held. And I think you probably can notice it as well. So let's just think about that for a second. And if you're watching this on recording, the same kind of thing, where is something being held in the body right now? Now, it could be a recent thing. It could just be some shallow thing from today or some discomfort from today. But I'm noticing things that are probably that are older things that are being held. It's okay. You can just notice it. If it is your first time with meditation, or you're not used to looking at the body, maybe you won't notice it. But for the people here today, and for those who've been in my class for a while, I suspect you can notice, oh yeah, there's some holding there. Now, so what is the solution to that holding? Well, first is to not think of it as a problem, okay? So the holding is not a problem. The tension is not a problem. The tension is information. So when we practice relaxation, what we are not practicing, let's even call it this, we're practicing focus on relaxation. We're not practicing relaxing. Let me say that again. We are practicing focusing on relaxation. We are not practicing relaxing. When we attend to relaxation that's in our body, the body tends to relax, but the goal is not to make it relax. It's a little bit paradoxical in here, but it's a really important way of putting this. It's sort of like if your child is really upset, yeah, there's a sort of goal that you want them not to be upset. But if you don't stop and listen to them as they are now, they will not start to feel better. You can't just tell them, stop being upset. I'm the adult. That won't work, right? Just like you can't tell your body, start being relaxed now. Won't do it. Won't do any good. So what we want to do is focus on relaxation that's in the body and practice letting the tension that's there be there without involving ourselves in it. So right now there's a part of your body that is holding. So you can notice, there's relaxation around that part of your body. Where's the nearest relaxation in the body from that holding area? This is one kind of thing we can do. And so what we're doing is trying to let go of adding any energy to the tension that's already there. So Shinzen Young always says something, subtle is significant. It's really an instruction to help us be precise with our mindfulness, that is to really pay attention. But it's also just a sort of truth. So with a ancient holding, that is a holding in your body that's been there for a while, there's usually multiple things going on and we can get subtle. So one thing is, hey, it's got a boundary, and then there's relaxation outside of it. And that's subtle. Where is that boundary? It's usually kind of vague. And you can maybe start, so that's one thing. There's a vague boundary, but then at some point the body is relaxed outside of that thing. The pain in that holding may seem so strong that it's hard for you to notice the relaxation. So it requires real attention and concentration to feel that any part of our body that is in tension is surrounded by some kind of relaxation. The second thing you may notice, can be very subtle, is that even without going into that feeling, that holding in the body, we may notice that there is a resistance to relaxing that part of the body. So these are separate things. There's the holding in the body, and then there's the thing it's sort of there's the thing that's being held, and then there's the holding. That's a way of putting it. So there's the pain, the historical pain that's being held, and then there's the holding itself. And the holding is like a fear of letting it move, a fear of feeling it. It can be a fear of the pain, right? And that's a subtly different feeling. Okay. And so where is that feeling? How is it? That often has to be addressed first. And so how will we address it? Well, first I'll just talk to it for a second, and you can do this for yourself. It's totally understandable that you don't want to feel pain or painful emotions. That's a totally natural thing, and we've been trained that way. Also, these very old painful emotions are tied into old painful experiences, and we may not want to feel them. Totally normal. And so we first say, we're not going to force you to feel anything you're not ready to feel. That's not what this practice is. So although we're starting to get in the area and we're starting to pay attention in an area which might be a little more challenging, we aren't here to force this to be felt. If it's not ready to be felt, we will not have to feel it. We're not here to force it to relax. If it's not ready to relax, we are not going to force it to relax. Remember the rescue dog, right? If the dog is not ready to cuddle, we're not going to cuddle with it. Okay, we're going to sit back and we're going to give it space, and we're just going to be there, right? And the dog might be a little on edge, like, why are these people looking at me? But maybe the dog's okay with that level, right? As long as you're 10 feet away, it's okay. Same thing with your emotions. Same things with the things that are being held. With the annoyance you might have had this morning, right? I'm not saying anyone was actually annoyed, but with some small thing that happens during your day, you can release it right away. If you're mindful, if you're awake, if you're conscious. But these things that are older and been held for a longer time, you need to approach with love and patience. So how do we do this? Well, I'm giving you, like, where's the boundary? That boundary is sort of like, well, how close can I get to the dog, right? Before it starts to react. So where is the boundary in my body around this place of holding where it's actually safe for me to feel? And you can get a little less meditative, and you can touch that part of your body. You can put your hands there, right? You can tune in. So that's a nice way to think about it. That's like I'm getting closer to my rescue dog, and I notice, okay, he's getting agitated. I'm going to stop right here. And you're sort of saying with all of your energy and your words and whatever way you can communicate it, rescue dog, I'm not going to come any closer than this until you are ready for me to. Now, I hope you can, if you really are doing that, I hope you can feel how the emotion starts to feel a little different, how that holding feels a little different when it starts to really hear you saying, I'm not here to fix you right now. You cannot rush through this. Can't do it. That will only make it go longer. And there's a part of you that may really want to rush. You're sick of it. You're tired of it. You want to rush through it. Okay. And then that part needs attention, right? You sort of have to go back step by step and get every part of you on board with this kind of healing. So first we establish that boundary, that safe boundary. And then we notice, so when I was saying, you start to notice the resistance to feeling this thing. There's a reason it's being held. And so that's not the feeling itself, that's the fear of the feeling. In a way, that's saying, like when you're going to the rescue dog, it's paying really close attention to what signals the dog is giving you. So as you give space to this area that's being held in your body, and you start to maybe go, well, I'm going to start relaxing it, or I'm going to get in there a little bit closer, it will start giving you signals. And if you just push past those signals, the signals will get so strong that you will go unconscious and you'll just stop doing it. You'll be like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go watch TV. That's essentially how the rescue dog takes over your body, right? So you have to listen to those signals and listen to the subtlety of it. You go, okay, I hear you. I hear you. You don't want to go any deeper right now. And I can tell because of this feeling right here. So it's a more, the fear of the feeling is a more surface feeling. It's more accessible, and it's safer in many ways to access that fear. So I'm going to keep going back to this rescue dog metaphor. That dog may be violent in response to violence that's been done to it. But he's not going to bite you right away unless you just rush past all the signals he's giving you. So as you get closer, that dog starts to make sounds, expressions. They could be fear, or they could be anger or aggression. And then you step back and you really let that, you say, hey, it's okay. You're allowed to have that response. Same thing here. You're allowed to be afraid of feeling this feeling. You're allowed to not want to do it. This is what we mean by relaxation. We are relaxing around everything that comes up. We are letting it be there the way it is. We aren't adding tension to tension. This is why I want us to think of as we are focusing on relaxation. We are not relaxing. And you can stop at one of these locations. So you can stop at the boundary of safety, or you can stop as you start to notice the fear of feeling anything more. And then you can go to something as simple as the breath going in and out, and the relaxation that is in the breath every time as you feel this boundary or this little bit of fear over the deeper feeling. And every time you breathe out, the body relaxes. And so you go, and again, you make sure you feel safe in your body. You make sure, you see how we are creating safety through relaxation. This body part that is holding tension, is holding emotion, starts to, maybe for the first time in your life, starts to get the sense that it's okay, you're not going to try and fix it right away, and you're not going to try and force it to be felt. And so what does that start to communicate to it? That means it doesn't have to take over your life as much, because it can now trust that you're not going to force it. So this is what it is to practice focus on relaxation. Is to start by focusing on relaxation in the body. That is finding actual relaxation in the body, letting whatever is willing to relax right now, relax. And you can do a practice like going through the body, body part by body part. You can focus on the breath or the out breath. As you do that, you're unwinding tensions from the day. You're clearing the table. But as you get deeper and deeper into relaxation and the practice of relaxation, then as you do that and you clear the table from the day, you'll notice there's things that are not cleared from your friggin' childhood. And that's okay. We're not going to clear them today. What we then do is notice a safe boundary around that tension. We notice and listen to signals of fear to feeling that tension. So any kind of emotions that are about the emotion. And ultimately, that will let us to get involved a little bit more and start to let the energy of that start to move. And that is a kind of relaxation as well. A great athlete is relaxed as they are doing sprinting 100 yards. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of tension and energy as they sprint 100 yards, but that athlete is also incredibly relaxed, letting their body flow in the proper way. Same thing with a musician, or same thing here. Relaxation does not mean no tension. It means letting go of adding tension to tension. So the tension that you're holding, when it starts to release, will release energy. It will release movement. It will release heat and vibration. It will go around the body in different places. It will cause muscular tension or it could take twitching or flowing. So how do we relax around that? We relax around that by letting that happen. Like we let a river flow. We let the emotion flow. But again, subtle is significant. It may want to flow just a little bit, and then it wants to stop. And we let it do that. As it starts to flow, we notice if fear of that flow is arising, and we pay attention to that fear. If it starts to flow, we may notice an attempt to make it flow faster. That's not relaxation. Again, we may have a real desire that get through this. Let's just get through it. I want to release all this emotion. And trust me, I know that feeling. There's these emotions. You're just like, I want to release all of them now so I never have to feel them again. There's some bravery in that. And in some ways, it's healthier than where most of us are most of the time. But that also won't work. Sometimes when you get really trained in this practice, and most of you have heard me tell these stories from my life, when very big, very sad things have happened, and I've had the beautiful experience of feeling all of it at once and letting it all move through me. That is an ideal circumstance. But I didn't force it to happen. I just let it happen. I was 100% relaxed to the pain of those emotions in those moments as they were happening. So I was clearing the table as it was coming up, but it wasn't just clearing the table of a small day. It was clearing a table of a big thing as it was coming up. Now, the things that are from our history just don't get cleared that easily because they are encrusted and barnacled and they've been built up over a lifetime. And they can no longer just release most of the time. They can't just release in one flow like that. So just keep going through this practice. We can focus on relaxation in the body, and we let go what was ready to let go. Then we notice places that are holding, and we give some space around those holdings. That is, we find a safe boundary around that holding area. That's a way of relaxing around the holding. We're not forcing the holding to relax. We are relaxing around the holding. As we relax around the holding, we may notice fear or resistance to that holding releasing arise. And we relax around that fear and resistance, and we give it attention. And remember that subtle is significant. We're paying attention to the rescue dog as it gives us signals about what we should do next, about how far we should push or how far we should drop back. As we've established safety, and this may be over days, weeks, or months, we've established safety for this area of our body, and we'll start to release and start to move. The first notion is just that it'll be moving. We'll notice maybe a little more vibration or a little more heat or a little bit of flow. It may all be moving within one location, or it might start flowing up or down through the body. Now, that flow can happen in big sudden bursts, in little trickles, and again, ultimately, the fluid, healthy emotion is a sort of flowing expression. But we can't force that to happen, just like we can't force ourselves into the letting go of the holding. We have to allow it to move in whatever herky-jerky way it wants to move. So it starts to move, fear arises, we back off. We let it, we don't force it to move. But we also pay attention to the fear that stops it from moving. So the emotion might start to arise, and then we're like, whoa, I don't know, this is too much. That fear then needs to be attended to, not gotten rid of, but relaxed around, felt, subtly attended to. Okay, yeah, we're scared. We can let it. If you want to stop this flow, stop the flow. It doesn't have to flow right now. Subtle is significant. Gentle and kind and attuned. We're trying to become attuned to our own body. That's another way of talking about relaxation. When a surfer is on the board, there's an attunement to the balance, a subtle attunement to the balance and to the wave. Without that subtle attunement, you fall off. That subtle attunement is relaxed. It has to be relaxed. If you're stiff, then every bump of the board will knock you off. So you have to be relaxed so you can take in all the little signals that are being given you by the world. Same thing here. As we ride our emotions or our body, as we relax through our body, we have to be relaxed and let the signals come and go. We have to let the fear arise and fall back. We have to let the emotion leak out a little bit, and then if it wants to stop, stop. If it wants to go, we let it go. That is, if it wants to get big, then we let it big. That requires that fear to release, right? So the fear of feeling the emotion can release at a certain point, and then a big chunk of that emotion can start coming up, and we can find ourselves sobbing or screaming or shaking, whatever it is, laughing. And that could go on for a while. And somewhere in there, the fear might come back up again and be like, no, we can't do this anymore. And you have to pay attention to that fear, not rush past it. And I tell you all this because there's a way of working with our body that is the most efficient way to release suffering in our experience. And although it's very efficient, it can take a while with certain historical things. But if you're approaching it in this way, if you can find this patience, it stops feeling like a long battle. If you get a rescue dog and you're like, I just want to cuddle with it, I just want to cuddle with it, and it takes 6 months before it cuddles, and every day you're like, I want to cuddle with it, well, that's going to be unpleasant, right? But if on the other hand, you get a rescue dog and you're like, I just want to be with this dog how it wants to be with me. I just want to be in its presence, and I love it as it is, and I know it's had a tough life, and I'm just here for it however it needs to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to experience its growth at whatever pace that is. Then that itself is a rewarding and pleasurable and deep experience that may be rewarded with cuddles at the end. But the experience itself is of value. And the same thing here. Our emotions stop being so painful when we stop trying to get rid of them or fix them. Trust me, I know with certain of these emotions that seems impossible. It just seems like this terror or this whatever is just unbearable, and I get that. And so we have to find our way to safety first, right? We have to find our way to start with relaxation, start with safety. Because if you have a rescue dog in your house and it's running around tearing all the curtains down and the couch down and it's biting your kids, and like that's really, really hard, right? So you've got to find a way to get it to be safe, right? And that happens to some of our emotions in our life, right? We have emotions that are destroying our life. And so we have to first find that relaxation and that safety. And that means we got to put that rescue dog in a box for a little while. That's fine. And what does that mean in the context of that? That means we turn our attention to relaxation and safety. We do not need to go into all these emotions right away. We first need to find relaxation. We need to find what it's like for parts of the body to relax. We need to directly contact the sense of safety in the body. And I know you've been working with me, all of you, for a while. So sometimes the body's not ready for that. So you find safety out in the world until it resonates in the body. And by the way, you may have gotten really deep into this game and found deep levels of safety and healed a whole bunch of things. And then something that might come up that takes over your body, and you need to then go back to the beginning and go find safety in whatever was the basic resource, like the color orange or whatever it is, right? No part of this is a beginning thing. It's part of it's the whole process is a process of respect for what's really happening right now. And if your idea is that this shouldn't be happening this way, you'll just suffer until you have respect for this is what's happening. This is how I am right now. Okay, so again, I'm a little confused about the time. Do we have like 15 minutes left? Is that proper? Am I right about that? Yeah. So I guess I won't force any other sit on us today. But let's just open it up for questions. I'm going to stop the recording here.